All right, ladies, so let's get back into Staphylococcus. Staphylococcus is a pus-forming bacteria that grows in clusters like what?
Grapes.
What you doing all that for? You feeling kind of...
It's irritating.
But it's life. It's real. They cause abscesses, pustules, and boils. We need to know this. What does Staphylococcus cause? Abscesses, pustules, and boils. What's an abscess? They kind of look like pimples or raised skin. Who else in the medical field could tell us about what an abscess is? Why are you thinking? Yes, Sue, what's your version?
Abscesses I usually see on crackheads if they shooting drugs or something.
Oh, Sue, girl. A crack, what? Let's just ask Siri. Siri, what is an abscess?
Here's what I found.
Read it to me. An abscess is a collection of pus that built up within tissue of a body. It can be localized collection of pus that has built up within the tissue of a body. An abscess is a collection of pus that has built up within the tissue of the body. Signs and symptoms of abscesses include redness, pain, warmth, and swelling. The swelling may feel like fluid filled when pressed. The area of redness often extends beyond the swelling. Carbonucles and boils, I know I ain't pronounced that right, and boils are types of abscesses that often involve hair follicles with carbonucles being larger. They are usually caused by bacterial infection. So what kind of bacterial do we know? One of the ones that causes infection. What's it called? Who? What's the name of that bacteria? What's the name of the bacteria that is pus forming? Staphylococcus. Yes. Staphylococcus is pus forming bacteria, and if we put it under the microscope, it's going to look like who? A cluster of grapes. And it causes abscesses, pustules, and boils. Okay, so we're going to learn about what makes bacteria grow and thrive. So it's a cluster of pus-forming bacteria. Everybody know what a staphylococcus is? It's pus-forming. So if that bacteria is present, you know pus is coming, right? If you put it under a microscope, it's going to look like what?
Right.
And it causes what? This bacteria causes what? And what else? Abscess and pustules. Correct. This is all needs to be known. If I walk up to you today, who is Staphylococcus? Pass it on. Would that be Sue? Yeah. Oh no, is Sue Coxie or she's Staphylococcus?
But ain't nobody, we only did one.
Nobody is Coxie? Okay, we're going to make Sue Staphylococcus. But you know what? Can you write it for Sue on her card?
I'll write it down.
You write it in your notes, Sue, because when I picked up yours yesterday, you wrote yours in pen. I need you to put it in ink. She got you, though. Who are you today, Sue?
Staphylococcus.
And what do you look like?
Grapes.
You look like a cluster of grapes. And what do you cause on the body?
Blisters and boils.
Boils, pustules, and abscesses. So you close. She threw that word blister in there. Okay, she thinking. Okay, Stu. So the next form of bacteria we're going to learn about is called Streptococcus. Streptococcus is also a pus-forming bacteria. So we done learned about two different bacteria that causes pus. Now the second one is called Streptococcus bacteria. And a Streptococcus, what do we know about bacteria? It's what? A coccus bacteria. What's the? It's a singular round. But streptococci, if we put her up under the microscope, she not gonna look like no cluster of grapes. She gonna look like they gonna be one behind each other, lined up, almost like a chain. You see how this necklace going around? Here's one bacteria, streptococci. Here's the next one. Every link is one bacteria. And if you put it under a microscope, it looks similar to this, like a necklace. And guess what? This bacteria, streptococci, causes strep throat, ladies. You see this necklace on my neck? Each one of these silver chains represents one round streptococci bacteria. And this is what they look like under the microscope, and it causes pus in your throat if you have streptococci. Bacteria growing in your throat. So, anybody ever had strep throat?
Yeah.
So, when you had strep throat, if you had been able to look back there, what was your throat? What did you see? What would you have seen?
Red.
You can't see the bacteria, but the bacteria cause what that you might could see if you had a light to look back there?
Red.
Pus. Pus. Yes. Streptococci causes pus. It causes pus on the throat because it is the bacteria that causes strep throat, and it's the bacteria that causes blood poisoning. You need to know this. Streptococci under the microscope looks like singular round bacteria linked together, just like this chain, and it causes the disease called strep throat. Everybody got that? Who's streptococci? Okay. Stephanie is streptococci. What do you call streptococci?
Pus-forming bacteria.
And that pus-forming bacteria causes what disease?
Strep throat and blood poisoning.
Yes, strep throat and blood poisoning. Test worthy, state board worthy. Knowing the description of what they look like under the microscope is part of the 32% state board questions you're going to have to know. It will read, if you have a cluster of bacteria under a microscope, what type of bacteria is it? Okay. Would that be Sue or you? Sue, that would be you? If it reads singular bacteria linked together like a chain, it would be who? Streptococci, and we know that bacteria causes what? Absolutely, strep throat. Another type of bacteria we're going to learn about is called diplococci. These are spherical. They're no longer round. They're spherical shaped. Spherical shaped bacteria that grow in pairs. So what does that mean? They're going to always be growing together in pairs. A good way to memorize this is called dice, two dice, diplococci, just like shooting dice. Two, they grow in two, and they cause the disease called pneumonia. Anybody ever had pneumonia? Well, praise God for that. Nobody had pneumonia. If you ever had pneumonia, guess what type of bacteria was inside your body? Diplococci. So when the doctor gave you antibiotics, what kind of bacteria was it trying to kill? What'd you say though? Diplococci. What did you say though? But that's fine. Harmful bacteria called diplococci, and they come together under the microscope, linked together. How many? Two. Right. Right. Like dice. 2 dice. So let's bag it up. Our Staphylococcus, they are gangbangers. They ain't going nowhere by themselves. Who would that be? Who are Staphylococcus gangbangers up in here? Staphylococcus. They come in groups. They gangbang and they ain't going nowhere by themselves. Who is that? Staph? Who's Streptococcus? Okay. So we know our gangbangers, they don't go by themselves. Streptococcus, they follow each other in a single line. Huh? Which one we talking? Yeah, Diplococcus are 2. Like pairs. Like 2 dice. Okay? And they're spherical. They're no longer round. What's that, ma'am? Yes. DI represents 2. And for those of us that didn't know that, just think about dice. We shooting some dice. 2 dice. Diplococcus. So, the next bacteria that we're going... Oh, wait a minute. But Diplococcus, what disease do you cause? Pneumonia. So, the next bacteria we're going to learn about, I think I drew those wrong. Spherical. How you make a spherical? Because the Diplococcus are like spherical. Hold on 1 second. I hate when I get up and that bed knee makes me look like I'm old.
Make it like a macaroni noodle.
Huh?
Like a macaroni set. I know it's like a course food. Maybe it is anything, yeah. Maybe like a
Squiggly like macaroni?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I drew that all wrong. The one I... Squiggly, spherical bacteria. It's a picture in your book. Do you guys see it? Did I unplug it? Okay. So, Diplococcus is spherical bacteria, and the bacilla is the short rod. They're short rod bacteria, and they are the most common bacteria and produces the disease such as lockjaw, tetanus, was also known as lockjaw, thyroid fever, tuberculosis, and diphtheria. Somebody help me out? Diphtheria. So bacillia are short rod-shaped bacteria, and they are most common and produce disease such as tetanus. What is tetanus, ladies? Lockjaw? I hope you remember by looking up. That's why I'm like, everybody look up might gonna remember. Y'all want me to try it again? What is tetanus? If you want to remember what tetanus is, please look up. Bacillia is a rod-shaped bacteria that causes a common bacteria and it produces the disease called tetanus, which another name for tetanus is lockjaw. So look up, girl, so you can remember this. What is another name for tetanus? Another name, look, Sue. Another name for tetanus is lockjaw. Look, Sue.
How do you spell tetanus?
Tetanus, Tetanus. So bacillia causes tetanus, lockjaw, thyroid fever, tuberculosis, and diphtheria. Any questions about bacillia? It's a rod-shaped bacteria. It's no longer round. It's a rod-shaped bacteria. Our final type of bacteria we're going to learn about is called spirilla. 'Spirilla' are cork-shaped bacteria. 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 They are subdivided into subgroups such as Treptomania pallidea, which causes syphilis. So who is Spirilla? Are y'all passing that marker on along? Would that be you, Sydney Spirilla? Or you Bacilla?
I wrote down diplococci.
You diplococci? Okay, pass the marker on up to whichever one grabbed first, about to be. Now she finna be Basilia, and guess who Spirilla is? Nevia.
What you say?
You're gonna be Basilia. You cause your short rod-shaped bacteria, and you cause the disease tetanus, thyroid fever, tuberculosis. And then Nevia, you are now Spirilla. And Spirilla are spiral cork-shaped bacteria. That's the ones I've been waiting to draw. I just love drawing them little cork-shaped bacteria. There they go. Spirilla! And Spirilla causes sexual transmitted disease like syphilis. That is test worthy. You need to know that. What do you call Spirilla? Nevia, we know you ain't really syphilis. Stop. She got her nose turned up. What bacteria causes syphilis? Spirilla, yes. And so the bacteria is spread through what Sue just said. So if your partner got some Spirilla bacteria, you better look out. Should have chose better. Or you should have just protected. Okay, so movement of bacteria. Different bacteria move in different ways. Motility, pass that on up to Samaya. This is who she is. Motility is the term that we use to describe self-movement. So, Miss Motility, who are you? Yeah, self-movement. Coxies rarely demonstrate movement. But what's another word for movement? Right, that's what it really reads. Coxie rarely demonstrates motility and generally transmitted in the air, in dust, or within substances which they settle. So our coxibacteria, how are they transmitted? So who is coxie? Coxie, who are you?
The single round shaped apple.
Which one of you are coxie for today? Is that Maya? Who's coxie? No, oh, nobody was coxie. I did skip that. Okay, that would be me.
Right there, somebody you can write it down.
Yes, somebody write coxie down. Coxie is gonna be Samaya, but we know so coxie, we know that you transmit in the air, dust, or within substances which they settle. So now there's these two people, or these two things. One name is Philogla and one name is Cecilia. These two move cells. Philogla and Cecilia love to hang out with these bacteria cells and move them in different motions. Philogla, are we on you, Tiffany? And Cecilia, you can write them on one card together. Both have move cells, but they have different motions. They both move cells. Philogla and Cecilia move cells, but they both have different motions on how they move cells. So Philogla are like this, ladies. They're slender, hair-like extensions. Okay, and that's how they move the bacteria. So the bacteria is like this, and it's moving it. The extensions is moving it around. Okay, the long hair-like fingers moves the bacteria around. It would be like if I had some popcorn and it just be moving. So the flagella, you must notice, are slender hair-like extensions that move in a slate-like motion, while Cecilia moves in a rowing motion like a boat. So it's taking the bacteria, and the bacteria is moving because the Cecilia is rowing like this and moving that bacteria. You understand? So Cecilia, who is Cecilia? What's her dance? Right? Okay, a rowing motion. Okay, thank you. I like this one like this. But she's a rowing round. And Falaga is slender hair-like fingers that's just moving them. Okay? We need to know this. State Board, Chapter 5 worthy test information. We need to know motility. What you do? What does motility mean? It means self-movement. Yes. So, we now know that bacteria moves around, right? And how I get there? It takes this car called Falaga and this Porsche named Cecilia, right? Those transportations for these bacteria, Falaga and Cecilia. Bacteria growth. Guess what? It also grows and it reproduces. Did y'all know that? It grows and it reproduces. Bacteria consists of an outer cell wall that contains liquid called protoplasm. What does bacteria consist of? Absolutely. An outer cell wall with a liquid called protoplasm. Well, Sicilian Falaga is the transportation for bacteria. Falaga is more like a train, and Cecilia is more like a boat, right? A rowing round. Okay. So we know how they move, but now we're about to learn how they grow. How does bacteria grow? Do they eat its Wheaties? Okay. No, they don't eat Wheaties. Huh? Yeah, it can. It can live and grow on its own. So bacteria consists of an outer cell wall that contains a liquid protoplasm. The life cycle of bacteria consists of two distinct phases. So bacteria has a life cycle of two phases. One is an active stage and an inactive stage, or it's called its spore forming stage. Remember we talked about a spore before? What's a spore? It's an outer shell, like a super cake for the bacteria. S-P-O-R-E. S-P-O-R-E. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So bacteria consists of an outer shell, and it also contains a liquid called protoplasm. And it has two different stages. It has an active stage and an inactive stage, also called spore forming stages. What happens during the active stage? Bacteria, when it's active, is thriving in warm, moist, dark, dirty environments. It only takes, ladies, it only takes 20 to 60 minutes for a bacteria to be a grown woman, full growth. I need you guys to focus on this 20 to 60 minutes. Not 20 to 60 days, not 20 to 60 months, not 20 to 60 weeks, 20 to 60 minutes, less than an hour. Can you guys remember that? Because it's test trick you up worthy. 20 minutes. Bacteria become a grown full woman less than an hour. 20 to 60 minutes. And I say this because the test like to fool you, and it's going to say 20 to 60 days, 20 to 60 weeks, 20 to 60 months, and you're going to be sitting there thinking, well, it took me 20 to 60 years, it took me 10 years to know. No, it's not on the same thrive of how we grew. Bacteria becomes a grown bacteria, full growth after how long, ladies? 20 to 60 minutes. So once it has grown as big as it can grow, it then divides into two new cells. I can't get no bigger, so guess what? It breaks off and gives you two new cells. This process is called what we call binary fission. It's not a definition, but it's test-worthy state board knowledge. What is binary fission? When the it is a definition? Oh, okay. Binary fission is when a bacteria cell has reached its full growth and can't grow no more, and it decides to break off. It don't decide, it has no choice. This is what it's going to do. And make two new cells. What are these two new cells called? They're called daughter cells. So she done got as big as she could get, and now she decided she's going to make two new mini-me's. And them two new mini-me's is going to grow up and reach its full capacity in less than what? 20 to 60 minutes. Are you guys getting this, right? So as long as bacteria is in a thriving condition, what is the thriving condition? What is a good thriving condition for bacteria to grow? Right. Bacteria is going to grow in dark, moist, dark, dirty places. So if it's not warm and it's cold, is it growing? That's why when you go to hospitals, hospitals are so cold.
They keep the germs down.
Right. Keep the bacteria from growing.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the hospital is high, it probably has.
All the bacteria that they don't have time to walk around with a microscope and clean every little thing, even though they got hospital EPA disinfectants, they still want to keep the temperature cold so that way the bacteria will not grow, because we already know that it's going to grow and be a grown woman within how long? And once she done got too big for her pants, she going to do what? She going to make her two new what? Two more daughter cells, two little mini-me's. And them two little mini-me's, as long as it's warm, dark, and dirty, is going to do what? They're going to continue to grow. And what they going to do when they get to their biggest capacity? Oh, heck no. They taking over, huh? Right? So this streptococcus doing this. Right? And it's just every 20 to 60 minutes, just making new streptococcus pus in your throat. Right? Okay.
Okay, hold on, wait, let me break this real quick.
Everybody got that? So that's the active stage. The inactive stage, or what we call the spore-forming stage, is when the bacteria is capable of forming a spore to protect itself. Does so to withstand environmental incompatible with existence. So what they're saying is, let's say we got a bacteria on this tray right here, and we already know in order for her to grow and to make her a whole family of kids, it has to be what?
Dirty.
Warm, dark, yes. So I'm gonna take her and put her in the freezer. It's no longer cold, so she might not be growing. But there are some bacteria that won't die, or that they grow what we call a super cake, which is those spores. This is considered the inactive stage. The stage where bacteria is capable of forming a spore to protect itself against unfavorable conditions. Bacterial spores is the ability for certain types of bacteria to form a hard keratin. What is these spores made up of? What's the super cake made up of?
Keratin.
What else made up of keratin that we have on our body? Our hair, yes. So when these bacteria grow spores, they grow a super cape of bacteria that keeps them from being killed or keeps them from being destroyed while we are giving unfavorable conditions. Okay? So the inactive or spore forming stage is the stage where a bacteria that is capable of forming a spore to protect itself does so to withstand being killed. Okay, a bacteria spore is the ability of certain types of bacteria to form this hard keratin coating that will protect it until the environment is more favorable. What's a more favorable environment? warm, dark, and dirty, and moist. So, bacterial infections. So, once these bacterials then grew and they then took over and she producing her a whole WNBA team, she now gonna cause bacterial infections. Infections occur when body tissues are invaded by disease-causing pathogenic bacteria. Everybody got that? A bacterial infection, it occurs when you have been invaded by a disease-causing, what's another word for disease-causing? Pathogenic, harmful bacteria. So, how do you know when your body is being invaded by a pathogenic bacteria? One of the first signs is inflammation. Inflammation. What is inflammation? It is a condition, huh?
I would just say inflammation is when your body starts aching in certain areas to let you know it's something wrong and it's off sick.
You were so close. You were so on point. The technical term, Sue, listen to this, okay? Is a condition in which the body reacts to injury, irritation, and infection. So when your body has been invaded by harmful bacteria, it begins to react to the injury by irritation, reacts to injury with irritation or infection. It inflames, it becomes red, it becomes heated, it becomes pain, and it becomes swelling. Everything you said, your body has reacted to the bacteria infection, and the bacteria infection is now causing the body to be red, heat, pain, and swelling. That's what inflammation is. Very good. So, if you got a place on your body right now that is red, and if you touch it, it's painful, and it's swollen, guess what? What's inside it? Some form of bacteria. We all clear on that?
Yeah. Which one?
If you got a place on your body that if you touch it right now, inflammation, if it's red, if it's painful when you touch it, or if it's swollen, that is a sign that you have bacteria infection. Another sign of bacteria infection is the presence of pus. So, as I stated, if you got a place somewhere and it's got pus in it, it is a sign that you have a bacterial infection. Pus is a fluid byproduct of infectious process. Guess what pus is made up of? Y'all ready? It is made up of blood cells, dead cells, and bacteria. Dead skin, dead cells, and bacteria. That's what pus is made up of. What you say? We on pus now. Inflammation is, the signs of inflammation is redness, heat, pain, and swelling. Pus is next, and pus is a sign of infection. So if you got a bump on you that has pus, even if it's an ingrown hair, guess what? That ingrown hair has some form of bacteria in it. And the reason I know is because it's pus on top of the ingrown hair, huh? It's dead skin, dead white blood cells, yes. It's white blood cells, dead cells, and bacteria. Anytime you got a pimple and it's got pus, it is made up of white blood cells, bacteria, and dead cells like your dead skin, dead cells. So what is the ingredients for pus? Can we get it going? We need some white blood cells, we need some bacteria, and we need some dead cells to make some pus. Any of y'all got any of that?
Hold on, give me 1 minute.
You better quit playing. Oh, you talking about on the studyings?
Yeah.
For the rest of you guys' life, I want y'all to know what pus is made up of, because it's so disgusting when you think about it. White blood cells, bacteria, and dead skin or dead cells. I think about it, I ain't gonna even lie on a weekly basis. I don't know, I'm very, very hairy. One curse I got with this hair texture is very fine, it's very curly. So I get hecka ingrown hair bumps now that I'm getting older. I literally pulled out a hair this curly out my right here yesterday. And it sets up infections somehow. I don't know if it's because I got bacteria on my hands and I touch them, but they'll end up getting infected. And I don't know, anytime I get a bump on my face, I don't even see pus, but if I touch it and it's red or it feels sore, I know it's infection. It's some kind of bacteria. Because bacteria can spread. Yeah, and then also, you can't see, like right now, I'm looking up under my nails, I can visibly see debris. I can visibly see debris. That ain't even what I can't see. So if I go to pus the bump, all the microorganisms, I have now contaminated my skin with the microorganisms. And I used to pump my pimples all the time with my hands until I started reading this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just spreading bacteria, causing more bacterial infections. Okay? So that's why you're supposed to use a Q-tip, 2 Q-tips to bust pimples. They sterile, don't have no contaminated ones. So do we now know, are you there, Valencia, on pus? Pus is white blood cells, dead cells, and bacteria. So when having infections, they can either be a local infection, meaning it's in one local area, such what I deal with, such as pimples and abscesses, and it's contained to a particular part of body and appears as lesions containing pus. So what is a local infection? Anybody what's a local infection? Yes, and it's contained to what?
A particular part of the body.
Yes, you need to know that. You need to know that if it says, you already know what an infection is, right? So now they put the word local in front of it. So it's a local infection. You already know that infection is caused by what? What causes infection? Pathogenic organisms. What type of pathogenic organisms do we know that create pimples or abscesses with pus? What type of organism we know create abscesses and pus? Well, you know what? Yes, streptococcus creates pus, but what kind of infection creates pimples and abscess? What kind of bacteria? Staphylococcus. So a local infection such as a pimple automatically tells me, or abscess tells me, that local infection has what type of, because we know if it's an abscess, what type of bacteria causes abscesses? Staphylococcus. You see how you really got to know these words and think about it?
So where do that bacteria come from? That's what causes it.
Bacteria comes from animal and plant, has animal and plant characteristics. Our skin, you got bacteria right now in your skin. Bacteria is harmful and good. Right now, your body has bacteria on it, and some of it's harmful and some of it's good. Our body houses the ability to house bacteria. You come touch this table right now. You don't know what bacteria is on there, do you? That's how COVID and all that got around, because it was spread through microorganisms, okay? They called COVID a virus, but when people got in the hospital, it turned into what? Pneumonia, right?
Yes.
So what kind of bacteria was taking over their lungs? Which one causes pneumonia? Who causes pneumonia? Diplococcus. So now we know COVID was had Diplococcus bacteria in it. It was growing out of control because it also caused pneumonia. So you really got to know what these different things and then just put it together. A local infection. such as a pimple. A pimple is considered a local infection. A boil. Let's be real. When I started gaining weight and it was hot outside and I wore stuff and my thighs got to rubbing, I got a boil. So warm, dark, and obviously probably dirty. You know? Same thing with our mouth. Now, Ryan's mom's mouth was clean. You know she went and brushed her teeth and used some Listerine before that video. Y'all know she did, right?
Yeah.
Because how many of us all day long, we touching stuff and then we go eat something without washing our hands and we didn't don't know what bacteria. You get what I'm saying? What bacteria on my hand? Because I done walked up to Janet over here and touched Janet, and Janet got Staphylococcus on her somewhere, and now it's on me, and now I put it in my mouth, and it's in a warm, dark place, and now every 20 to 60 minutes it's doing what?
It's spreading bacteria.
It's spreading bacteria, and it's growing, and now it's going to cause what? Infection. Right. Are we getting this now?
Yeah.
Right. And we need EPA what? Disinfectants, so we can kind of eliminate some of her little nasty stuff she left around. And when I cough, and I coughed up some diplocoxy because I'm walking around with walking pneumonia and don't know it, right? People walking around with walking pneumonia, coughing on everything, and you walk past and touch it, and then you accidentally eat one of those Takis and forgot to wash your hands. Now you got it. Y'all getting this?
Yeah.
That's why I be like, I'm so glad. I love having my kids in my house, my grandkids for the whole month of July. But I'm so glad they gone. Because they lay and ride all over the floor and don't think nothing about washing their hands.
And man, you being a teacher, it kind of bother you.
Yeah, girl, I got sick while they was in town. Like, I hadn't been sick in I don't know how long. And now all of a sudden I done caught something. It's because of y'all little ones. But I love them to death. I'll do it again, so. All right, so we all know what a local infection is, right? Yep. All right, we got about 10 more minutes before break. A systematic infection. This is an infection where the pathogen has distributed throughout the body or a system of the body, then staying in one body area or organ. Staphylococcus are common human bacteria. They can be picked up on doorknobs, countertops, handshaking, or contaminant implements. So what kind of disease does Staphylococcus cause? Listen, Staphylococci is staph, like staph, and streppo. Staphylococcus. Who's Staphylococcus? Sue, what kind of diseases do you cause?
Staphylococcus. Are plus 40 bacteria that grow in clusters, like bunches of grapes.
But what kind of diseases do you cause?
They causes abscessors, clusters, and boils.
So pretty much, I can easily walk around and touch a doorknob, shake somebody's hand, then come back and touch my face, and now I got, especially if I got some open, and I do got one right here, right now. So you guys get it? Is this making sense to you now? Y'all see why I'm so cuckoo crazy? Because I ain't even talked about our toothbrushes. So we brush our teeth to clean the bacteria out, right? We rinse everything out. And you put your toothbrush in a dark, warm place, huh? And there's bacteria on that toothbrush because you just took it out your mouth. You ain't put nothing on it to kind of sterilize it. You tried to rinse it all off with water, but it still might be a bacteria or so on it.
I was pouring I used that old yellow jeans out.
But does peroxide kill bacteria? That's the question. What will kill the bacteria, especially if the bacteria got a super cape on, keratin super cape called what? Spores. So your mouth is a warm, dark, dirty place. It can very well be, right? A warm, dark, dirty place your mouth can be. So once I started teaching this, When I'm done with my toothbrush, I run it under hot water real good, and I got a roll of Bounty at my sink. I take a Bounty paper towel, and I take it from the inside and dry it off, wrap it up real good, and then I just stick it somewhere separate because I'm drying off the moisture, trying to wipe off any bacteria, and I don't keep it in my bathroom. I went from keeping it out in the public, in the bathroom, because when people come in and flush the toilet, and if they don't let the toilet seat down, the water from the toilet sprays all up in the air and it lands. And even though you can't see those bacteria, they there, and it lands all over your bathroom counter. So that's why you come to my house, you have to let the toilet seat down before you flush. For real. I'll be mad if I walk in there and see the toilet seat up, because then I got to go in there and disinfect my whole bathroom, the shower, the handles, the doorknobs, because somebody flushed the toilet in my bathroom and did not let the seat down. And even though they didn't poop, the toilet had bacteria and it spread all over the place, okay?
I'm just going to sanitize my bathroom. After everybody. It's so
Well, see, that's why I went from, and I don't use the same bath towel no more. Because I go into the shower today, I take a shower, I clean my body, get all the bacteria off. I rinse the towel out, but I ain't for sure if the bacteria is still in the towel or not. I hang the towel up, I go out the bathroom, I cut the light off. My house set at 72 degrees. It's dark, warm, and guess what's growing in my bath towel? My face towel. Bacteria. So I use a fresh, I think I'm at a hotel every day. I promise y'all, I get a new bath towel a new face towel every day. Don't let me had took a poop and I had to clean up. Oh no, you gotta get a new towel for sure. Cause how you know if you got all that clean up, you know what I'm saying? You can't see bacteria, cause why? It is right, and microorganism means what? Cannot be seen with the human eye. I'm sorry, y'all. I just had to break it down like that for real. So a systematic infection is infection where the pathogens has distributed throughout the body or a system of the body. Thank you. Good morning. MRSA, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, is an example of a staph infection that initially appears in the skin infection, presenting a pimple, rash, or boil, or a cluster of boils that can be difficult to cure. Without treatment, the infection becomes systematic, means it takes over a system, and can have devastating consequences that can cause and result in death. So an example of a staph infection, and what causes staph infections? What bacteria? Which one? Yes, a harmful, but yes. Staphylococcus. What does staphylococcus also cause? Right. Yes, and MRSA MRSA is an example of a staph infection. MRSA. And it appears as just a skin infection or pimples or rash or boils. It looks like that, but it's not, and it can cause death. So this is another type of staph infection that we need to know. Contagious disease, also known as a communicable disease. Highlight that. What is a communicable disease? Contagious. It is a disease that spreads from one person to another by direct or indirect contact, such as coughing, sneezing, unclean hands, unclean implements. So that means her nippers could be not properly cleaned, and she can spread some form of staphylococcus to me because she used the same ones on me.
Just like if you notice when you go to the nail shop, anytime I sit down and tell them, use a new stick, please, because if you notice, the people with that wax, they'll pull that stick right out and put it on your face.
That's nasty. It's called double dipping.
I promise you, if you go to the nail shop, when you get your eyebrows back, tell them, can you use a new stick?
It don't even matter if they use a new stick, because if they've been doing it all day long anyway, you should just get up. Don't go to them, because they use the same wax on Tango on her. And they still was double dipping. They took the bacteria from Tango when they put it on her face, put it into the wax, and then Tango went home. But Tango bacteria is now growing inside that wax because the wax is what? Warm, dark. And it's dirty because it's got Tango's bacteria on it. So now Tiffany comes in to get a wax. They get a fresh Tiffany stick for Tiffany, but they stick the stick in contaminated wax because guess what? They just contaminated it with Tango's bacteria 10 minutes ago. And in 10 minutes, her bacteria grew every 20 to 60 minutes. So if you guys are going to some waxing place and you see them taking the same stick every time and dipping it in the wax, you need to run. You need to run. You never double dip when waxing. You get one stick, you dip it, as soon as you're done, you throw it away. Throw it away. Because if I take it and dip it and I lay the wax on my skin, the stick has just touched my skin, and my skin could very well have a microorganism that's harmful to the body. And now that microorganism or bacteria, I'm going to take it and stick it back in the hot wax. And what did I just do? Transfer it to the hot wax. And I walked away, and the hot wax is growing that bacteria. At a speed of what? Absolutely. All right, ladies. So we're going to stop right there. You have learned everything we need to learn about bacteria, which is a one-cell microorganism. We learned about the different types of bacteria that we need to know about. Cocci, one round-shaped bacteria. Tomorrow we'll pick back up on viruses. All right, ladies? No, I'm not sorry. Not tomorrow, next Wednesday.